There was a removal last week, and we have the beginning of the preliminary hearing. We've adjourned to today to allow further investigation because we learned that the grandmother was here locally, and I asked the department to do some more investigation into the household to look at that relative placement. So I'm looking forward to the updates. I did have a brief sidebar with the attorneys, in which essentially, in my opinion, seemed like it was a bit of a preview for the information that's going to be presented today, in the efforts made to answer the question that the court's already posed to the department. But if there's any additional comments, we'll look forward to those from the attorneys after appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, guardian ad litem for the minor child.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Harvey.
Sarah Harvey, DHHS.
Michael Brooks, I represent the mother, Jacqueline Loomis.
Your name for the record, ma'am?
Jackie Lewis.
Michael McFarland, representing father. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Dakota Herman Duckworth. I am the father.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jones, do you need anybody to spell? No, I've got them. Good. Okay, thank you so much. All right, comments about the sidebar, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
I have no additional comments, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Gentlemen?
No.
I would say the court's comments are accurate.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Thomas, let's get to it then in answering the questions about placement in the home of the parents, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask if that Ms. Harvey be sworn in.
Ms. Harvey, come on up for a witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Thomas, proceed at will.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, at the last hearing, the court had asked the department to explore whether the maternal grandmother was an appropriate placement option for the child. At this time, what efforts have been made to make that determination?
Jill Heilman is the worker who has been working with the family on that topic. I do know that she has been to the home. She started the home assessment. She's met with grandma. They do need to meet again. I believe it's next Thursday to continue on that topic. Because grandma's residence is in Washington, it is going to take some time for the background checks and the things like that to come back, because it's not as easy as if we were talking about someone residing in Michigan. But all of that is underway and actively being pursued.
At this time, the maternal grandmother still is staying with the parents. Is that accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, she has not secured any housing outside of the parents' home.
And there's a policy, I believe, that allows a child to be placed with a relative and the relative essentially to live with the parents. Would that be an appropriate situation for this family?
I do not believe it would be appropriate. There are some safety concerns surrounding some statements that Mr. Harmon Duckworth has said in regards to the safety of his son and his mental health.
In order for the court to make those decisions, the court's record needs to reflect the facts that it's considering. And what, from your investigation or that you've learned through Jill's documentation and the department system, gives rise to such alarm? Like, what does it mean that there's safety concerns regarding his statements?
Okay. Mr. Harmon Duckworth has made statements that I have myself witnessed and statements that were sent to Ms. Heilman, specifically to Ms. Heilman this week. All of it stems around the topic of marijuana use. He reports that he needs to be high in order for the people around him to be safe and for his son to be safe, was the statement that was made this week. Previous to that, he has reported that he uses marijuana to calm himself so that people around him can be safe. We also speak to him about the fact that if he is the primary parenting person, he cannot be under the influence. If there's obviously going to be a time where someone else may not be the primary caregiver at that moment. He cannot be under the influence and be a caregiver in those moments. And he has openly said that people around him are not safe when he is not under the influence.
Have you heard or witnessed any concerns regarding, in the petition, I believe that there were homicidal or suicidal ideations that were concerns. Does that remain a concern for the department at this time?
Yes, we've seen no remedy to that.
Have there been any instances in which he has appeared to have homicidal ideations?
There was one small concerning incident. I say small because it was short in time frame, with Ms. Heilman in the home, where she felt unsafe as Mr. Duckworth was coming close to her carrying a knife. And she said, can I help you with something? Because he was coming closer into her personal space. He said, I'm carrying this knife in a safe way. If I wanted to hurt you, I would carry my knife like this. And then he did a slashing motion and held the knife up. That made the worker feel very unsafe in the moment. It also just goes to the topic of safety concerns inside the home with the parents.
Were there any concerns about his use of kitchen knives in general or weapons?
Outside of that incident, he did just state that in the past he has carried with him a broken knife so that he couldn't use the knife on someone if he felt like he wanted to harm them. He also had a plastic knife so that he could use the plastic knife and he wouldn't harm someone with the knife if he had those two objects. There are concerns, though, that if he reports, if he is not using to a substantial amount, then there are safety concerns. There are obviously going to be knives in a home where steak knives, you use things to cut things. There are going to be knives in a home. It's unsure the safety of anyone in those moments.
Has a mother posed any safety threats to anyone at the department or herself or potentially the child?
No, there have been no firm safety concerns regarding mom, just parenting concerns.
Okay. And does it seem that the mother or the grandmother are able to mitigate any of those safety concerns posed by the father?
It is my understanding from my own experiences and from other workers' experiences that there's reason to believe that both Jackie and her mom can become fearful of Dakota in those moments. They both seem to kind of back away. I don't think that either one of them have the ability to stand firmly and stop him from actions.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to ask you to refrain from talking while the witness is talking. If we need to take a break, that's fine. Just let me know, Mr. McFarland.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, could you repeat what you were saying?
We're concerned with both Jackie and Patty's ability to stand up to Dakota in those moments. As even workers have concerns about standing up to them in those moments, and we're trained to do so. So we feel that it would be a higher safety concern to have them in charge, so to speak, or directing him. Does not take redirection very well. It would be more of a trigger.
You noted that while mom may not pose safety concerns to the department personnel or anything like that, there are some parenting concerns. Have you been able to observe any parenting time between the parents and child?
Yes, there have been so far 2 parenting times, and then there's also one scheduled for today after our court hearing. I witnessed one parenting time. The foster care worker witnessed the other. During the parenting time that I witnessed, Jackie was caring towards her son. She would rock him in the corner, sing to him, but there is no base knowledge of changing baby's clothes, changing diapers. She Dakota really takes over those tasks for her. She does make statements. An example is when the baby was wet, she said the blue line on the diaper means that it's wet. So she understands pieces, but to actually put those pieces all together to parent is still a major concern at this time.
And are there any safety concerns for the child even during parenting, or because it's supervised? So is supervision sufficient to safeguard this child from the lack of parenting abilities these parents are demonstrating?
With Jackie, yes. We do have concerns, obviously, for Dakota. Primarily, he's indicated that he needs the marijuana to parent, but we can't have him coming to parenting time under the influence. It's not appropriate. But during the parenting time that I was at, he brought out his marijuana pen to show the supervisor, this is what I use, this is what I do. He went into great detail about the use of gummies and how much he takes throughout the day, what it does, the use of alcohol to also treat his mental health. There are concerns that if we even started drug screening before, when redirected, again, he does not take redirection very well. He gets very angry and can get agitated. It's the safety, and we don't know what's going to happen when he's agitated.
Has he been able to demonstrate an ability to appropriately care for the child without supervision there?
Without supervision, no. We've seen nothing without supervision. At one point, he was actually 2 points. He was changing the baby's diaper and stepped away while leaving the baby on a table. He was redirected and told that wasn't safe, that he needed to be with him the whole time. Maybe 20 minutes later, he did it again. And when redirected, he said, I was just 2 feet away. He's fine. Those are major concerns, that you were directed once, even a few minutes later, you repeated the same process, and leaving a baby on the table is a safety concern.
At any point during his parenting time, were there other indications of his inability to care for the child, such as being unable to self-regulate?
There was a great deal of emotional irregularity. He was able, one time he did become very agitated. He was asked if he'd like to take a walk, and he declined to be able to take a walk. He did sit, and after a few minutes, he became upset. He started to cry, and then immediately we went kind of back into hypervocalization, type of manic type behavior. So the emotions swing very quickly.
During parenting time, is the content of conversations focused on the child or around creating a bond with the child?
With Jackie, it is much more focused on the child and learning, creating a bond, things of that nature. Dakota is very sporadic in his conversations. They kind of go all over the place. We will be speaking about the baby and diaper changes or formula, and then a few minutes later we're speaking about court and the hearing, and we come back around to the hospital and the things that happened at the hospital. It is very all over the place. It's very difficult to follow.
During parenting time, if the child becomes dysregulated, what happens?
There were instances in this specific parenting time that I was in. We were informed that the baby does not at this time at placement take a binky, that it hasn't been needed, that he's been fairly calm. Dakota wanted to use a binky. They hadn't been sanitized yet, so we were unable to use the binkies that he had brought. It's not that they were incorrect, anything like that. They just hadn't been sanitized yet. And the baby was more agitated during that parenting time. He fussed quite a bit. There were good moments where they were both singing to him, things like that. But Dakota became fixated on the fact that he could not use the binky. And he wanted to feed him again, but it wasn't his feeding schedule. He had just eaten. He stated that the baby would be using the binky to control his anger.
What's a binky?
A pacifier.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, a pacifier. That the baby would be using that to control his own anger, and so that he would not have temper tantrums.
In your opinion, is Mr. Herman Duckworth appropriate with any of the service providers?
So far, no.
Is there anything else you'd like the court to know regarding potential placement with grandma while she's currently at the familial home?
While she's currently living with the parents, we do continue to feel that it wouldn't be an appropriate placement at this time. However, we're still working through the process. We're still doing the 3130A. We're continuing the entire process.
After the hearing last on the 21st, did you discover any information that might have been inconsistent with the grandmother's testimony?
Yes, I was able to speak to Social Security. We had really had that piece as to why Jackie received Social Security benefits. I was able to speak to them and discovered that Jackie is actually considered an adult disabled child, and that is what she received Social Security benefits for. She has a diagnosis through Social Security of intellectual disability. She's currently under review for that as well. The time frame on that is up. She, during the last review, which I believe was 2019, I believe is what I was told, Patty, Jackie's mom, had provided information to the SSI reviewer or evaluator. She had also provided school documents showing the special education or IEP that Jackie had at that time. So she's not receiving benefits, death benefits from her father. She is actually receiving benefits under a disability for intellectual disability.
Did the Social Administration provide any of the information that Grandma Patty had provided during that 2019 review?
Patty stated that Jackie is not good with money, doesn't understand the concept of different dollars and coins, things like that. And she also provided the educational piece. At that time, there was also an evaluation done as to Jackie's IQ. All of this, Patty was participating in and was aware of. And at that time, that is when she was granted the payee status.
Does that information cause the department to have concern about her, Patty, Grandma, her ability to provide care for the infant?
Yeah, it goes to that thought of, can we identify, understand, and report accurately? If Patty didn't seem to understand why her daughter received Social Security, it's a concern then for many other things moving forward. Does Patty understand how this process works, what the rules are specifically for this process? Can she accurately report concerns that she sees? We've seen the minimization of behaviors by her in regards to the safety of other people around Dakota, Jackie's intellectual capabilities. We've seen those things be misreported, and it causes a concern.
Thank you. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions from Ms. Harvey.
Questions, Mr. McFarland?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No.
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Harvey, at this time, what would be your recommendation with respect to parenting time for both parents?
I would really like to see visits be suspended until we can get a psychological evaluation. They're just ongoing safety concerns. We can't have a parent presenting under the influence for parenting time, yet openly state that the only time people are safe is when he is under the influence. There are just too many safety barriers, psychological factors that I feel need to be explored before we can continue with supervised parenting.
Would Ms. Lomas be appropriate for supervised parenting time without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present?
I think that could be, I think that would be a possibility.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Harvey, was the option of asking Dakota to step out of the home explored? And if that's, well, I guess the other question that is folded into that question is, would this child be safe if placed with mother and grandmother without Dakota in the home?
I would still have concerns as to whether they could actually, one, keep themselves safe from him if they had to redirect him, and two, keep the baby safe. And not because they didn't want to, but because they really truly are not capable of doing that. It becomes a concern. It just becomes a concern. If he does enter the home, are they able to, when told, no, you can't pick him up right now, he becomes agitated. Can they continue to stand up to him, to have, the capability of being firm with him? That is a major concern.
Are there any instances that demonstrate to you that would be or is already a consistent problem in the home?
Yes. Mr. Duckworth, Harmon Duckworth, speaks for Jackie almost exclusively. She does not often do things out of her own accord. She does things after he tells her to. There was one instance where there was a provider on the phone. Jackie was attempting to speak to whom it was that had called her. He took the phone and was yelling at the person. So you see the coercive control in their relationship. Ms. Heilman also saw a bit of that in that she was having a great conversation with Patty alone. When Dakota came home, he was already agitated. Grandma really shut down and really didn't want to answer specific questions. She felt very uncomfortable when he became agitated. It's a bit of a slump. Not the ability to stand up and say, no, you need to not do this. She can be firm. However, I don't think she can be firm enough to keep safety, maintain safety.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman wasn't able to complete her interview with Patty?
Yes, the length of time, it was taking quite a bit of time. The parents had been at parenting time. They came home early. That Dakota coming home to that moment really did change the entire vibe of the situation. Patty didn't really feel comfortable answering questions while he was there. A lot of it just needed to be further explored. And so Jill set up a time separately again for just she and Patty to speak alone. So his presence really did hinder it, but it also is a long process. There are quite a few things. And sometimes when you've already sat through it for 2 hours, we need to just continue to explore it on a different day.
Do you know why Ms. Heilman's not able to be here today?
She is actually off today.
Okay. Has there been any information supplied about the family from their residence of origin, if you will, like where Patty has come from?
Yes. I have requested records. They have confirmed that there are some records and they'll be sending them, but they take up to 10 business days. I was able myself, just through a Google search, to find that Patty's other daughter has a significant CPS history. So the family does have history. There's a termination of 3 children. And it does not appear that in that process, Patty was the placement for any. There were 6 children originally removed. 3 were given back to their mother, 3 were
I'm
put
going to
into
object.
adoption.
How in the dickens am I supposed to parse this information that the witness got off a computer that I can't read? I can't see it. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's false. It's not hearsay. It's beyond hearsay.
That's fair, Mr. Brooks. And I think that I'll be asking follow-up questions at subsequent hearings as well, but I just want to really make sure that the department's done everything they can to find out what's happening with this family and to find out whether or not placement with grandmother could be an option. So I appreciate your objection, and I also look at the information, giving it the weight that it deserves, which is obviously qualified by the source being Google. But I am also glad to hear, frankly, that the department is looking at what they can find out about the family, I suppose, in some respects. So you're welcome to cross-examine as well, obviously.
I can also let you know what led me, like where Google led me, because that is an important piece.
All
But
right.
actually, there was an appeal to the termination. So it was actually a court document that is in a juris website. So it is pretty accurate information.
Would you be able to provide a copy of that
Yeah.
in the future?
Sure, good.
Thank you. All right, questions based on my questions, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes, I'm trying to understand the importance of a link of mother's sister losing her parental rights. You haven't discovered anything in your documentation that says that maternal grandmother was an issue, correct?
No, what the discovery led to was that she was not a placement option for those children. That's primarily why it was.
But that has no
donated to us.
significance because you have no idea why. It could be not
Correct.
enough rooms, it
Yep,
could be
correct.
distance.
Yep, we're waiting for that information to come from Washington State, yes.
Fine.
I did want to dig further into why, yes.
Okay. Now, it appears as though you're concerned with father's parenting time being suspended as him being physically in the room with the child and inappropriate, correct?
Correct.
So another option would be for him to view the child on FaceTime by Zoom, so the child can hear his voice, can still form a bond, and not be a risk of harm, physical harm to the child. That would be an alternative, wouldn't it?
Yes, if the court felt that that was the alternative, that would be fine.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. May you return your seat. All right, any other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, when you advised my client of his rights on the record, he also indicated he had the right to make a statement. He would like to make a statement at this time. Would you like him to go from here, Your Honor?
I think it would be best to have him
Watch
sworn
your head.
and approach our witness.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
There's a step here, be careful.
I have a whole lot to start. Let's get start this off with the first.
Hey, hang on. We have to do this in a special order, okay? Number one, you did have a copy of the petition and you remember the judge reading it to you, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you also know that we have asked for a jury trial, correct?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
They're recording everything, so they need to
Oh, okay,
hear.
so I need to state yes.
Yes, exactly.
Apologies.
Okay, so a lot of what you might say is going to be for the trial, so we might not want to let everybody know ahead of time, but you have some important comments to make, you think, today, correct?
Yep.
And these comments are going to be where you think the worker maybe misrepresented what she was saying,
I
correct?
would like to actually show off, if I can, what happens on my mental states. I can show it at any point in time and what happens when I get angry.
Well, why don't you tell us then, because that's an
So the
important.
original thing, the reason why I was originally diagnosed with homicidal and suicidal bipolar was because my dad has it. It is a genetic thing. Why do you think I was also trying to keep his fits down in case he does have any anger issues? I was pre-prepping even for my own mental health. Why I had been mentioning the pacifier to the people. I had also had a breakdown in front of the actual caseworker because of Patty. I have been attempting to get this car done for about 2 weeks now.
Car?
Car. The car that was actually court ordered by the thing. Have not truly had help, and every time that I do, I have to either fight with her to the point where I'm yelling and screaming throughout my house, which has been the last 4 days. You can even reference to my honey for that aspect. Just yesterday, I had to have a own talk about my own honey's medical expenses.
Well, hang on. It's just, when you were saying my honey, who are you referring
Honey
to?
used my girlfriend over in the side that is Jackie Lomas. I always use the term as my honey
Thank
or
you.
mine.
Okay.
Patty has a problem with me stating my because I go around my house just stating mine because it's how I understand what I can actually use. She doesn't understand that that is the case in
I
point.
understand. Okay.
So I have issues with that. And if you notice, this is what I was doing, showing that I was caring. I was taking my time. I was even giving the aspects. The only thing that I couldn't stop is I have a pathological need to swear at sometimes. So the worse I get, the more I swear. I stated that to them. And the only word that I was using in the court was F, the F word.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Appreciate you not using that.
Yep, that's the reason. Or effing, to repeat. Those were the only terminologies that I used in the actual visits. I've been repeatedly asked, but every time that I was also talking, it was also only about Patty.
Let's get back to the issue of visits. You want to be,
That was also the reason why I was so to repeat, I had also stated I was going in there on mental weed. If they had noticed at the start of my visit, when I was not having any issues, I was actually, being perfect, fine, cozy, doing everything that I needed.
and why was that? Do you know?
It's because I had taken my marijuana. I was not feeling joint pain, which is what it was prescribed for.
So do
I
you have
was
a
even-
prescription for marijuana?
I was told by my doctor to self-medicate. That is why I've been doing it for the past 5 years.
Would you be willing to sign a release? So
I-
Child Protective Services will contact your doctor and verify that. Would you be okay?
Yes, I would be okay
Great.
with that. I actually had gotten, the only reason I'm even on SSI right now is because 5 years ago, I originally was trying to get my entire mental health checked because I wanted to make sure she was safe in my house, Jacqueline Lomas. Because I wasn't feeling comfortable with everybody micromanaging what I had to do. And even during those 5 years, I had Patty repeatedly come into my house and start cleaning my house without my say-so. And at that point, I had panic attacks at that point. So I had neglected my entire
Patty being whom?
Patty Lomas that is sitting back in the court right now.
Okay, that's your girlfriend's
Mother,
Okay, got it. Okay.
which I have been having these repeated same issues with her money and having to actually help her with her own money every single time. We had even attempted to change her own physical
Whose
standing.
money are we talking about?
Jacqueline's Lomas money for her own safety so that she could be her own payee. The only reason that I even became the payee is because Jackie felt more comfortable with me being the payee.
You are paid for,
I'm not a payee
Okay.
anymore. She had taken the rights over. Patty Lomas, the mother, had taken the rights back. After not even a single week of me having it.
let me ask you on visitation. If the court determines that you can't personally be there with your child, would you like to be there by FaceTime or Zoom so you can see the child and talk to the child so the child recognizes your voice?
Yes. Also, the reason why I had stated to the court, can I show it, is because I only have to say a single word and I have a seizure right then and there. That is my safety mechanism. When I get too angry, it's not the action I'm going to cut someone. That is the thought that crosses my mind. But in doing so, my first action is to physically shut down my body so that I have it. The weed acts as a stimulant. I'd even stated when I was using alcohol, the only time that I ever, and I stated this politely, ever used alcohol is when I cannot feel my legs to the point where moving. That is the only time. It is to help numb, increase blood flow, and to also increase my oxygen intake. So I'm not hyperventilating, having anxiety or aggression. And normally it takes about one a day just to keep me tipsy. And that is just cozy and at tipsy.
One what?
One Smirnoff, you know, the red, white, and blues?
No. I'm not.
Okay.
Is that a bottle you're talking about?
Yes, it's a literal 16 ounces.
Is that
about it. And I would
vodka?
only have one of those if I was even.
Yeah, I'm not, what is Smirnoff? Is that vodka?
Okay, Smirnoff is normally a combination of a usual cocktail drink. It is usually involving a high fruity.
It's like a seltzer?
Yeah, it's like a seltzer.
Okay, so it's not straight.
It's not even straight vodka.
Okay,
I'm even taking minor doses for that, and I have even stated that to everyone that I
Is the
have.
doctor okay with that too?
That is the only thing that I have not talked with, but to repeat, I was also told to self-medicate.
Now, you've heard at least it raised that maybe you might consider moving out of the house for the child to be with your girlfriend and her mother. Your thoughts?
If I had to, the majority of my anger issues that have repeated for the last 2 weeks have only been regarding to Patty Lomas. The majority of it has been stating that same thing repeatedly to the court.
The question is,
Yes, I realize what the question is. I'm understanding the anger aspect too.
okay, I think the court heard that.
Yep.
Of course, we're gonna have our day in court on
Yeah,
the
this is the
petition.
reason why I wanted to double check everything. The first thing, the only thing that I can agree with was for on court record to actually agree with the majority of what this petition has stated, including my own mental health and the aspects that I have is that my house was not unlivable, quote unquote.
Oh, hang on, we'll get to that when it comes to the trial, okay?
Apologies.
Oh, no problem. Have we covered those important decisions regarding parenting time?
My issues right now is I would actually request as a court hearing to have Patty actually move out of my house. I need her out of my house so fast. Last night, it proved to me that I had more anger issues because she has been here, because a lot of my bills and stuff revolve around 2 checks, not just one.
Some people might say that they're concerned for her physical health.
Actually, the only reason that is the case is because she continuously went even behind Jackie's back, called up a doctor on thing after we had been repeatedly asking her to only wait an hour when we had already called a doctor to get Jackie's prescriptions fixed. We had to go to the ER because Patty Lomas had panicked to the point of thinking she had syphilis, which did not have any case in point. So it's or syphilis, whatever you want to be equate.
Okay.
And then after that, we had gone to the doctor. Even the doctor was telling her she was fine in the hospital right over, didn't even give time for it, and had already pushed that aspect. I usually do the majority of my girlfriend's pills, or.
Well, we're not on to those things. We're just here about, I'd like to focus on the parenting time. Have we discussed everything that you want to?
Yes, for parenting time, yes. So if it is necessary for me to not be involved in those, as a case. Also, hold on, for parenting time, I had stated multiple times on the aspect of just light minor reminders for Honey, because I know she forgets at times. She gets panicked and then has her issue, which is she just overly nitpicks at certain aspects, just like I do.
What triggers you?
So I have 3 different things. 1, if you are not, when I have already specifically asked you of a task, the only task that I have actually asked of Patty to even come down here and had specifically stated to her not to come down here if she was sick, which when she had found out that the actual.
We understand that. What's the second?
Yep. Apologies. I had a whole bunch of things lined up, and this is just the first of the things. Very many.
What's the second trigger?
The second trigger, like I have stated, if I actually stated I actually will have a seizure. I can't state it on record because I had a issue when I was younger with a past ex. Why I have so many tendencies. I've been inside for 2 years.
What's the third then, if you can't mention the second?
So the third one, I honestly have issues with cleaning my house. because my body does not work normally at certain times, which means that's why I'm taking the marijuana.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If the court were to order you out of your house, I have no idea what the court's going to do. Okay?
Yep.
But if the court were to order you out,
I would not have a place to stay. I would specifically ask for Patty to be moved out.
but if the court ordered you out, would you be out?
I would have to be out if that was the case.
I don't know what the court's going to do, so I'm just asking every scenario. You understand?
Yep. And if you notice, this is without weed. This is why I'm showing this to the court. This is without any docile nature.
So this is your worst case scenario.
This is my worst case scenario. This is why I came here specifically to show the court what was actually happening.
Okay.
Also, when that knife was even mentioned, I had the back of the blade hidden like this so that I wouldn't actually hit my foot, or to actually, knife etiquette states that you hold the blade to the back of your wrist to make sure that anyone that is in any state or actual has issues has to hold it correctly this way. I had even stated it and showed it to her and had shown her the issue of if someone is in a threatening motion. I had even shown her the issue when a blade is actually raised out and held down to the side. That is normally an action of aggression. Well, the way that I was holding it was an action that I didn't even want to get near you. There was a box behind her for the car seat, which is why I had grabbed a knife. I hadn't stated anything. I'd just taken my weed and went over and was on my task and doing stuff around my house.
So basically, you're not aggressive when you have your weed.
When I have my weed, I am very docile, to the point that it is the case. The only time that I am not docile when is there a problem.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll see if any other attorneys have questions for you, okay?
Yes, please.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Mr. Hammond Duckworth, when was the last time that you used marijuana?
Literally just yesterday. I specifically had taken a 200 milligram and a single hit yesterday to guarantee that I would be safe and happy and healthy for everything, including if I was having a panic attack. So I calmed down multiple times during the actual issue yesterday.
Okay. And what is your child's name?
Silas Lomas, Syelus.
Okay. And do you think that you're appropriate during parenting time? Do you think that you pose a risk of harm to him?
Honestly, yes. I was actually explaining to an actual social worker what my issues that I have been dealing with, and that is also including the car aspect, that I've repeatedly kept having to say to Patty Lomas almost every single day, which has caused her not to feel safe in my house like she has recommended. And I have only asked
Mr. Hammond Duckworth, I'm just going to re-ask my question. Do you feel that you are safe to your son during parenting time?
Oh, yes. Actually, I was more safe than what I was realizing. The only 2 times I was actually going and...
Your Honor, I'm just going to say my client has answered. She asked if we felt safe.
Okay,
He said yes. So
Apologies, I don't know how much you want.
Mr. McFarland, if he wants to continue answering the question, I can appreciate your concern on his behalf, but if he wants to explain that, I think as far as it relates to parenting time, it's very relevant, and I would like him to be able to do that.
Thank you.
So the first parenting time, the reason why I had come in so distraught for the second one was because the first one I had found out the infamil that they were serving him, and not even taking my response of saying that Similac was supposed to be given to the child. Specifically, I had brought an entire case of a 40-pack of bottles of Similac to my first hearing. That was to make sure that I had everything. I had even washed bottles specifically that were already stated for that. And I'm still having that used against me in court, which is another reason why I feel like I have to state this. And I realize I am overstepping my bounds, and my attorney has already told me to stop. But I feel like I have to say this, because if I don't, it's going to eat away at me for next week. I'm trying to repeat. The majority of this petition, I could state that half of this is wrong, including the even aspect of me actually going in multiple times to check my own girlfriend to get her health. This is why I stated that I wanted to be last time here.
Okay.
The majority of this petition was wrong.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Sir, are you having a panic attack right now?
So the other reason why I have these issues is I remember everything. That means every aspect, every even issue. I normally just start crying. And then I get worse and worse. And then I snap, which at that time it takes, the last time that me and my honey originally had an argument, it lasted over 5 hours. And that was me asking if she's okay, or if there's anything that I can do for her. Sometimes she doesn't even understand her own body, which is why we go through the health mechanisms that we normally do. You know what doctors do. Are you experiencing 0 from 10 pain? We go through that thing. And if she's experiencing any pain that is over the 6th limit, I normally call an ER visit to guarantee that everything is happy, healthy, and safe in my house. And that even includes if I feel if I'm being too aggressive. Sometimes that is even to the case of that point, if I'm being too aggressive, I will make sure that she is actually getting her mental health checked at the hospital, and we will take a night at that time.
Sir, my question was, right now at 10 minutes to 12 today, are you having a panic?
So right now would be equating to a panic attack. This is my minor first stage. My second stage is usually I need stuff done. It is no other option. Patty has pushed me to the point where I've had no fucking point to use my second stage normally. And that has happened at least 6 times this week. And it has been over her own daughter's health. I literally had an argument yesterday about making a bed. And all it was moved was 2 inches.
I have no further questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Recross?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Any other witnesses, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you. Watch your head, please.
Mr. Brooks?
I'm finding out right now. Do you want to get around the stand or no?
If you want me to.
Well, you just tell me if you showed me all that stuff, and I'm just wondering if you want to tell the court about that.
You can do whatever you want. It's not me. Do not look for, if you notice, that's also a care method that we use. Sorry.
Sure.
You don't sound sure.
I'm not sure.
No, we do not have anything to say.
Any witnesses you'd like me to hear from, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Well, all right. Comments in closing, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would just ask the court to make the findings that reasonable, if actually active efforts have been made for this family to continue to assist in the reunification process and to help the family, I guess, with placement, to have the most family-like placement for this child. It does not seem that that is an appropriate placement. We are asking the court to continue placement with the department and allowing the child to remain in the licensed foster care home. Based on the testimony we've heard today, there seems to be a clear concern about the safety and well-being of all of the adults in this matter, which would clearly imply a substantial and imminent risk of harm to the child. We are asking the court to suspend parenting time as relates to father, pending further psychological evaluation to understand how he could possibly interact with his child in a safe manner. I think that his behavior also poses a substantial risk of harm to the service providers that are involved in assisting this family. And I believe that that is unreasonable to ask them to continue to place themselves at such risks where there have to be safety plans to the extent that they are implemented right now. We are asking the court to continue, and also as it relates to Mr. McFarland's insinuating that perhaps online or video call parenting time could happen. I would also like to point the court back to the testimony of, and even father's own testimony, of the inappropriate language use The scattered dialogue and the inability to really focus on the child in and of himself. And for those reasons, we are just requesting a full out suspension of parenting time. As relates to mother, we would request continued supervised parenting time as policy requires. And with that, we would ask the court to continue the authorization of the petition pending the trials. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland.
Your Honor, I don't recall there being any testimony that my client spoke inappropriately to the minor child, raised his voice to the minor child, threatened the minor child. So I don't know how we can extrapolate that by him doing a remote contact by Zoom, which no worker should be involved in, which could be immediately shut off from the other side, why the child couldn't hear his voice. It appears as though he's demonstrated appropriate vocal conduct in front of the child. So that's what we're asking, and we're still requesting the jury trial.
Mr. Brooks.
I can see, listening to this man testify, how the caseworkers could either A, confuse or B, deliberately distort what they perceive as his threat. He knows he has issues mentally. How often are we in here and people don't even acknowledge they have them? It's every week, and they don't know that there are issues. He knows. He does. Maybe it's not the politically correct thing to do, but he knows how to mitigate those issues so that he can be more appropriate. Now, I don't know what this diagnosis said about him being homicidal or suicide. We haven't seen it.
That's why I was.
No, don't help me.
No, you're good. Sponsors.
Thank you. But he knows, he is aware, he wants to control it. He is controlling it. You don't approve of it, maybe the workers don't work, but it works. Self-medication in this case has an ameliorating effect on his behavior. Now, with respect to mom, I don't hear anybody saying she can't go to visitation. I don't see any reason why he can't go. I mean, if push comes to shove, they can always terminate the visitations, but I don't think he's expressed it. I think he's been very candid with us. I didn't hear him say he was ever feeling like he had threatening motivations towards a caseworker, threatening motivations towards a supervisor for visitations, none of it. And he went on quite a bit of detail about his status and where he's at emotionally. No, I don't see it. I just see he's different. I think he knows he's different, but that doesn't mean he can't visit with his child. And I'm opposed to any kind of limitation short of this. I agree with the need for supervision. I agree with that. But that's as far as I'm willing to go. Other than that, I don't see what the issue is. If it gets worse, I mean, we all know it. The DHS has got the ability instantaneously to terminate visitation and to ask this court to continue the termination. Have they said he harmed the child? No. Have they said he's a little is he negligent about that? The tabletop thing is a bad thing. You can't do it.
Yep.
But he learns. He listens. No. He should be allowed. My client should be allowed supervised visitation with their child. As for bad language in front of the child, come on. How old is this child? A week old? 2 weeks old?
They were even stating it. Sorry.
All right. That's just ludicrous. That child hasn't got a clue on earth what's being said. I don't know if even a child can hear well at the age he's at. Probably not. But no, he's too easy a target. But none of it points to him being a threat to anybody. I suspect if he was a threat, he is aware enough, he would know he's escalating. And he'd go outside, he'd take some marijuana, and okay, nobody likes it, too bad. But he's not threatening anybody, and he should be allowed to visit with his child. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood.
Sorry, that was more about
Your Honor, I am more in line with Ms. Thomas and her recommendations. And after hearing testimony from Mr. Harmon Duckworth, I am absolutely concerned with the safety of the workers and the caregivers. He indicated and displayed that he did carry a knife around, and while his explanation may seem appropriate to him or to others, why in the world would you display how to carry a knife and what you would do with it if you're going to be threatening to a caseworker? That would be very concerning, and I would myself have felt very unsafe in that circumstance. As for his behavior at the visits, I also agree that that's inappropriate and his parenting time should be suspended. He testified that he has to be high or tipsy, I think he said, in order to be calm. Yet, if you're high and tipsy, yes, you're calm, but then no, you can't parent your child. So it's a vicious cycle. I agree that a psychological evaluation needs to occur, and hopefully we can make some headway on appropriate treatment for Mr. Harmon Duckworth so that he can have parenting time with his child in the future. However, I believe that the other attorneys, with except for Ms. Thomas, are minimizing the behaviors that have been testified to by Ms. Harvey and by Mr. Harmon Duckworth himself. I disagree that he knows his limits. Clearly, we're here for a reason, and he's even testified that he can't keep the home clean, which is one of the reasons why the petition was even filed. So I believe that there is significant safety concerns both for the minor child as well as the caseworkers, as well as Ms. Lomas and her mother. And so for those reasons, I believe that placement with the department is still appropriate for the minor child. I would recommend that all parenting time for dad be suspended pending further investigation and further psych evals, and that parenting time for the mom be supervised without Mr. Harmon Duckworth present. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the court finds that all interested parties were given notice for purposes of the continuation of today's preliminary hearing. I do want to confirm that I think that the reasons for the removal continue to be they continue to create a reasonable risk of, or an unreasonable risk of harm associated with allowing Sileas to be in the care of either parent at this time. We've heard Mr. Dakota Harmon Duckworth confirm himself that he has some pretty significant diagnoses and some very some triggers that put him on edge on a regular basis, that he self-medicates with very high levels of marijuana in order to try to control some of those impulses that he has, and even when he is self-medicated, that he has some trouble controlling those impulses. That was demonstrated by his actions around Ms. Jill Harmon during the time that she was at the home. And again, Dakota himself confirmed that he did bring a knife into the room where she was at, demonstrated that he was using it in a safe and knew how to use it in an unsafe way. None of that is appropriate or necessary during a visit. There's no reason at all that there should be a knife brought into the room while a CPS person is there for any other reason other than to intimidate that particular worker. He's admitted to us that he has triggers as when he has to ask someone to do something more than one time, that his mother-in-law has taken him to what he referred to as, I think, level 2 over 6 times in the last week, including at one point over the fact that she had made a bed and moved it several inches over. We have the indications that Jill Heilman was in the process of interviewing the mother, the grandmother, and that the grandmother shut down and was unable to complete the interview because when Dakota arrived back at the home, she stopped talking. So there are a lot of indications that the home where these two parents are residing is not safe. And I would go as far as to say that it may not be safe for the grandmother and the mother at this time. And I think Dakota Harmon Duckworth is doing the best he can under the circumstances with this diagnosis to mitigate these risks. And I'm hoping that voluntary or involuntarily, he's able to access some additional services through the department to help control some of those impulses and alleviate the risk of harm associated with his diagnosis that he shared with us today. In the meantime, I will ask the department to look at those potential resources for him, to look at a psychological evaluation for him. I know that there are some good resources over at Adrian Psychiatric and Counseling, and you have your own resources as well, but we need obviously someone who is capable of looking at Mr. Harmon Duckworth's psychology and psychiatry needs and look at how we can help support him to be safe around himself and the people he cares about. He's able to do that voluntarily prior to pretrial and trial, of course, and we'll ask him to do that in order to make sure that he's safe during parenting time. In the meantime, I will allow him to have the virtual parenting time. I think that's a good suggestion by Mr. McFarland, and we'll ask the department to do a family team meeting to arrange some time where he's able to do some virtual parenting time with his child, virtual supervised parenting time, pending pretrial and trial, and I'll look for an update on that time at pretrial. I will also allow Ms. Jacqueline Lomas to exercise supervised parenting time. That will have to be done at the department, and arrangements made also during an FTM, and if that's going to be outside the department, to ensure that Mr. Dakota is able to not be part of that particular time. And there will be obviously some need to plan around that in order to make sure that he's able to be supported in curbing his impulses if he has frustrations around that point. So I won't be asking our service providers to do that in a vacuum. I'll ask you to try to arrange that parenting time either at the department or in a public place so that you have the resources you need to keep the situation safe and civil for everyone. All right, so that's what's going to be happening with parenting time moving forward. I'll ask the department to continue to investigate the maternal grandmother replacement as they have indicated they will. To continue that home investigation, to submit the results of any BIA inquiry, to supply that AOP or any other proof of legal parentage. That's something we have to tie up before we come back and proceed further as it relates to adjudication. Our final pretrial will be September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury instructions, voir dire questions, and jury verdict forms are due at or before that final pretrial. Witness and exhibit list should also be filed and exchanged prior to or at that pretrial. Of course, it includes marking your potential exhibits and exchanging those between parties so that everyone can be prepared for jury trial, which will be conducted on October 11th, 2024, commencing at 8:30 in the morning.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I might, I plan to be out on October 11th. And that Monday following, so I'll be back to Tuesday following the 11th. Be back on the 15th.
All right, would you be able to support Wednesday, October 16th? I have Wednesday or I have Friday, actually. The 18th.
October, correct, Your Honor?
October 16th or October 18th?
Either for me. Just double check and make sure I don't have anything in another.
We can actually even go Monday, October 21st, if that works better for everybody.
Fine by me.
16th is fine, 18th is fine, 21st is fine.
Your Honor, because it's a jury trial, I think I'd rather have it on a Monday in case we have to carry over another day. That may be more appropriate.
We have, well, if we did the 16th, we could carry it over to the 17th.
That's fine too. So that's just my concern. I don't want to break for a weekend.
Let's go with Wednesday, October 16th, understanding that if we do need to ask the jury to rejoin us Thursday morning, then obviously we'd be open for business. So for continuity, I appreciate that, Mr. McFarland. I agree that we should be able to have some time where it still remains fresh for everyone. So let's schedule it for October 16th. Again, commencing at 8:30. And I'll make changes on my calendar accordingly. And look for those updates as articulated previously at our pre-trial.
Judge, I'm sorry, when was the pretrial again?
September 16th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
What's that pre-trial date again? Pre-trial one more time, September 16th at 11 a.m. Jury trial, October 16th at 8:30. I've issued my findings as it relates to placement. I think that the child is in the safest and least restrictive circumstances pending further developments, and the homework list that I've given the department. And unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Should my client wait out in the hall for the order for the times?
Sure.